Cheers. So we're on. Here we go. So we're going to do Q&A. Chris Smith, Jimmy Mackin, welcome to the water cooler. Jimmy, welcome back. Had a little tech issues, but we're online. We're good to go. We've done over 100 shows. We talk about sales, technology, marketing, service, books. We're giving away copies of my new book. We're going to be bringing on questions. We have one here from Dylan, and we're really going to just try to answer as many as we can. But for those of you who have never used Blab, the idea is that you can become a viewer. So the same way Jimmy's in a square and I'm in a square, you can be in the show tonight. So instead of watching the show, you can be on the show. And all you have to do is just call in. You basically click on the seat, say, I have a question. And if you do that, you're going to be live on the air. Jimmy, we had a guy in bed one time, remember?
Yes, I do.
He was under the sheet.
The fact that you actually answered his question seriously is still
such a good question. It really threw me off. I thought we were going to get like a flasher. And we actually have getting a really good question. So awesome. So we're going to get started. Q&A, Chris Smith, Jimmy Mackin, water cooler. And we'll be manning the chat. We'll be dropping links. We'll be referencing shows that we've done in the past where we went deeper. But excited for the questions. Just really quick, and people are already doing it. When you have a question on Blab, you just put /Q, and that'll put it on the side here for Jimmy and I. If you want to dial in, you actually have to click or dial in or try to call in. So we'll open that up as well. So Jimmy, I'm going to start by asking you the one from Dylan.
Sure.
Very difficult question. I mean, they're starting with kind of a deep one here. What is the most efficient way to translate the value of a service? And we talk about this so often, you and I, that sometimes you're better at what you do than you are at talking about what you do. So, Jimmy, what is the most efficient way to translate the value of a service?
Yeah. So this is something that, like Chris just mentioned, every business struggles with. And I think the challenge that we run into and how we approach this problem is we try to come up with a one-word or three-word slogan, right? Hey, this is what we do. This is how we're different. And almost in every instance, Dylan, it's some just random platitude. And like you'll see examples of this, like we believe in excellence and ethics is like the slogan of Enron as an example. And like you just can't tell like which company and what they do and you know what service they offer by their slogan. So here's a tip that I use when trying to explain a service that maybe covers a broad range of things or broad range of value is look at the words that your customers use to describe you. And a great way to do this is go to your Zillow profile and look at what your customers say about you. What are the words they use? What are the phrases they use to explain your service? Because that's how you want to speak to them. Because if a customer is talking, explaining your service in that respect, you want to be able to articulate that back to potential future customers. So I think that's just one quick hack, Chris. Start to talk in the language of your customers instead of a snappy slogan you see on a wall or on a billboard.
I love it. I think it's great advice. I think we don't even have to go deeper there. I love the specific tip of going to Yelp, going to Zillow, or even doing a survey. What is it that you loved about working with our company? And if words like fast, reliable, professional, personable, simple, when those words start to come up a lot, think of your business like a movie poster. And you just have kind of 2 words or 3 words, and you can get those words from your Zillow profile. Awesome tip, Jimmy. You guys should give Jimmy some praise for that one. Next question. I'll take this part of it. You kind of lost your host role. I'm doing play-by-play here. You're doing color. That go well.
You're already sweating 10 minutes in. Hang in there, man. We're good.
Yeah, can you see the questions?
Yeah, okay. I can see them.
Well, I'll pass it back to you then, and then we'll bring in the people in the chat as well to get their feedback.
Sure. So I'm seeing this one here, Chris. This is from Gene, doing a website redesign. What would be the first page visitors see, and would you do a forced registration?
Sure. That's an interesting question. I like that one. So when you, first of all, doing a website redesign, Jimmy, you wrote an article about that was awesome. If you want to pull it up and put it in the chat, where, it starts off, it's almost like when you go to buy a house, guys. It starts off like with this really kind of beautiful American dream that you're accomplishing. And then it turns into a very frustrating and drawn out process pretty quickly. Same thing with websites. It's like, I'm going to get a new site. 8 months later, you haven't shipped it, and all these things are frustrating. So here's what I would say. First of all, the the question about do you force registration is not so much about the page as about the source. So if you're doing a Facebook ad where you can put 12 pictures of a property, a lot of information about the property in the ad itself, then you can force registration on that click. But if you were to try to just say, check out this new house and go to that page with no photo or not really setting the table. So I think the key there is that the question about can you ask for information or not. Now, this is where Facebook, I feel like, has a big advantage over Google, because when you do a Google search, it's just kind of a plain text link, search for homes, thousands of pictures. You click through to that, they can't quite ask you to register yet, you'll leave. So that's where this era of forced registration came from. But with Facebook, the source, when you can have a lot of stuff in the ad, I think you can force registration when they get there. What I think you're looking, the real question I think here is, if I do a big website redesign and there's all these new pages, where should I put the singular focus of that site, right? If there's one button, where should I put that? And a lot of people are not necessarily going to want to put search for homes. Like if you're not working with buyers, you don't even like referring them out, that would be a terrible button, right, to have as your main thing. So I think that you want to identify the pages that are the most likely to get you hired. For us, that would be something like a testimonials page, for sure, where we have, tons of amazing testimonials from our clients. So that would be kind of a page we would think about as having all, other pages trying to point to that page in some capacity. That could be from a blog post. That could be from the homepage, from the menu. But I think that it's step one, identify which pages are going to get you hired. Sometimes that's not a listing details page, and then step two, at every inch of the site, pretend you only have those 2 or 3 pages versus trying to make your site go to every possible option. I think simplicity wins when you're designing in 2016. So great question.
Yeah, just to expand on that, and I agree 100%, focusing on the things that are going to get you hired. I think the first thing to understand, Gene, is that consumers don't use websites the same way we design websites, in the sense that they don't go to your homepage, click on something, and then go to each individual page within a site. They come in from every single angle. They come in from email campaigns, from Facebook messages, from Google Ads, from SEO, from all these different places. So I think the first thing, like Chris just mentioned, is that you have to have a very singular focus on any given page. And most
Jimmy,
people,
if people a lot of times are saying, man, John, I can never say his name right. John. I always want to say Jean.
Is it French?
So if like 80% of your clients come through your blog, that's the answer. Like if people are telling you like, man, we've been reading your blog, we really love your blog, and we wanted to reach out to you, then that becomes that page. But if a lot of your, business is word of mouth and referrals, and that they're going through the reviews pages elsewhere, Zillow, Yelp, etc., drive them through the reviews page on yours. Jimmy, I'm going to ask you this one from Alan. Thank you, Alan, for the question. Keep the questions coming. Thank you, guys. There's a ton. Let's really go quick, Jimmy. I think is probably the best format for tonight. What is the best social media venue to use for marketing? I obviously have a strong opinion on this. Jimmy, what do you think the best venue to do social media marketing is? Thanks, Alan.
Well, the numbers don't lie, Chris. I think when we look at the data, somewhere around 93%, maybe upwards of 95% of all social media activity is on Facebook. Facebook, and Chris actually recommended a book called Hatching Twitter. That was, I think, an amazing story of the founding partners of Twitter. Facebook is one of the unique companies that really was built from the ground up, focusing on making money. And a lot of these social media companies, Pinterest, Twitter, maybe LinkedIn's on that category, but they're on the edge, focused on getting a huge user base. And now they have this oh shit moment where they're trying to basically monetize. Facebook knew from day one they were going to monetize. So they built tools, they built the platform to actually allow businesses to reach consumers in an effective way. So the numbers don't lie. It's a platform that we use religiously here at Curator. I don't think there's really any other social media venue or social media tool or platform in the discussion beyond obviously Facebook and Facebook's owned entities.
Yeah, well, great, and I think that just to piggyback that only a little bit, then we'll get to Mark here. Mark's in the bottom left. Mark, we're going to bring you on. Nice
Hey, how you
headset.
doing?
Well,
And
we either
beer.
have
Welcome,
Mark
Mark.
or the guy that kidnapped Mark.
We're just getting through winter, so.
Okay, got you. So Jimmy, I think that it is such a big opportunity to go wide on Facebook and deep. Like when you think about social media venues, you sort of start to get itching, and our clients will do this, right? Like, we've kind of got the Facebook thing down because of Curator. Can we do Craigslist? Can we do Instagram? Can we do Twitter ads? Can we do LinkedIn ads? And they ask about all of that. And the reality is the answer would be not if you don't have a great, vibrant Facebook group yet, right? I mean, not if you are not leveraging Facebook Messenger every single day to start a few conversations with your sphere, not if you don't have a group even to run your business, right? Like like we have our client mastermind group. So I think that, and this is probably exciting for people that like simple. If you're good at using Facebook, use more parts of it. Use the parts of it that aren't pages and profile, which is ads, groups, Messenger, and those things really can blow up. Mark, what's your question, my man?
Yeah,
Nice.
My question is, well, nice to meet you guys again online. My question is, I ran a Facebook ad, an open house Facebook ad, and I'm just curious, what numbers do you look as for a successful ad that you run? What I did was I ran it 2 weeks from Friday to Sunday, and I got over 4,000 impressions of the ad. And then out of that, about 200 people actually clicked on the ad to go to a single property website. And the open house I feel was successful because we had over 12 people that came through one Sunday and another 12 people that came through another Sunday. So I'm just curious, what numbers do you look at to call an ad a success or not?
Sure. I'll take this one, Jimmy. And that's really important, Mark, because I think the key here, John and I from our team at Curator, we manage at this point like $3 or $4 million a year in ads. Some for open houses, some for sellers, some for buyers, some for blog traffic, some for IDX traffic. We can sort of quickly tell you which ads do which, but the key is defining success before you run the ad. Because if you run an ad, I ran an ad the other day that had like 800 likes in an instant, and the cost per engagement was very low. You would have run that ad, all day because it was so inexpensive. But my goal of the ad was link clicks so I could capture emails to grow a list. And it was actually performing very poorly, something like literally like 800 likes on the ad and 8 clicks. And it was at like $500 fucking dollars. It was like $40 a click, Jimmy, and I'm supposed to have like a fucking book about it, right? And so when I showed the ad to a couple of people, they're like, man, it was really hard to turn this off, right? Cost per engagement is so low. You got to keep this thing going. But to answer your question, Mark, my most important metric still today, and it will be moving forward, is going to be link clicks. So you can go and tell your sellers that you got 4,000 people that you reached, right?
Yep.
But where it starts to get actually closer to the bottom line of your business is a link click to a page or a site that has the chance to capture a certain percentage of that. And so things like reach and impressions and cost per engagement, those are sort of smoke and mirrors to the true goal of a marketer, which is driving traffic. Yeah. And so I would say link clicks for me, if I had to choose one thing to be focused on across every ad I ran.
So are you talking more about capturing the email or just clicking on it to go to the property sites?
Either way, that's the thing. If you'll get more clicks, it'll go further. It'll be cheaper if you don't make them register. You can make them register, but either way, my goal is to get them out of there. One of the reasons is if you're using a pixel on your website, right? Just them visiting my website and leaving Facebook is going to trigger more ads that are different on across the web in the news feed. So right now, for me, the primary objective is as many link clicks as possible. Jimmy, anything to add?
Yeah, well, this is a challenge I think a lot of marketers run into, Chris, which is they try to compare their ad performance against, let's say, an article they write about a top performing Facebook ad. And my advice is this, Mark: when it comes to focusing on improving your ad performance, you have to swim in your own lane. Look at your own Facebook insights. And Chris and I did an in-depth breakdown of this in our Facebook marketing water cooler a little while back. When we'll drop the link in there in a second. But look at your own Facebook insights. Identify the highest performing ads by link, clicks, engagement, and then analyze and figure out, why are those ads performing at a higher rate? Am I spending enough money on the ads? Is the call to action better? Is the link higher up so they don't have to click the see more button? Am I using better photos? Am I actually focusing on specific times a day? Am I posting on Friday or Saturday morning? So what you can do is you can sort of reverse engineer your highest performing ads, like Chris is suggesting, focusing on link clicks, by just simply looking at your performance.
Well, and Jimmy, the number one reason link clicks are usually low, Mark, is lack of reach. So they are proportionate. So like you would actually be better off reaching 1,000 people 4 times than reaching 4,000 people 1 time.
Okay.
Right? So you may get, hey, we reached 4,000 people, but if the frequency is 1, think about that for yourself. Sometimes you have to see an ad 3, 4, 5 times before you're going to take action. So I would look at, not always the other metric we make sure of is frequency. We don't give up on an ad that's frequency is low, and we definitely give up on an ad when the frequency gets above maybe 5 or 6. Great questions, Jimmy. Okay. Read off Marjorie's question. Thanks, Mark. Email me for your free autographed book. Marjorie has a question, Jimmy. Let's roll.
Yeah, sure. So how many hours should a realtor work on their business, specifically lead management, follow-up, sales, rather than in their business, which is just the technical part of being a realtor, showing houses, meeting with clients, doing listing presentations? Well, Chris, why don't you take the lead on this one? I'll come over the top with anything I want to add.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really is going to be a little bit different for each person. Which of those two do you like the most? I mean, if you love being in follow-up, boss, and you love boosting posts on Facebook, and you love kind of the idea of sending messages to get leads to bite, then you should do that all the time. And you should have help with your open houses and your showings and those other things. But it could be vice versa, right? It could be, you actually love the belly to belly. You love the being with the clients, the showing homes, the open houses, and you actually hate pixels. So we talk about that a lot, Jimmy. Do you want to focus on people, or do you want to focus on pixels? If you want to focus on people, you need to hire a curator or a person or somebody that can focus on pixels, so you'll get more people to focus on. But I think that to me is the answer. Is like, I don't think it comes down to a number of hours, because you'll work 50 or 80 if you choose the one that you really like. But I think that from a lead management perspective, I'll give some data from the book. You actually don't need more than 4 hours a day to follow up and call all of your leads. Between 8 and 10 in the morning and 4 to 6 is prime conversation time anyway. So if you were to just do 4 hours a day of database management, lead follow-up, and dialing for dollars, and then do another 4 to 6 on the other things you mentioned, I think that's a nice balance. Great question. Jimmy, we got a caller. Here we go. I'm going to open it up. Rebecca Mendoza, come on.
Hello, can you see me?
Cheers, SCV.
Here I am, Santa Clarita. I'm a realtor in the Santa Clarita area of Los Angeles in Southern California. What's happening?
Awesome. What are you drinking? The more important question, what are you drinking?
I am not drinking at the moment. I actually have to go present an offer in about half an hour. So I'm going to change and go, and I can't be drinking for that. So anyways, okay, here's my question, guys. I'm a newer curator client. I am just like literally the first couple of weeks in, and I have a question about a Facebook ad. So I've done a couple of Facebook ads. One I did that directed people to my blog. So I put a couple pictures up, a couple bullet points for more information, click this link. And some people, I got a lot of comments. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. So I got about 42 comments. But early on, someone said, I'm really annoyed that you have to click this link to get more information. Why don't you just give it up? And then after that, there's a bunch of different comments of negative comments like, oh, I wouldn't use you to make me do this. Would you delete that thread and get rid of it. At first I thought, I'll just ignore it, people. And then somebody, I actually private messaged somebody and said, this is why we do it, but here's the information just to be helpful. So they took the address and the information and they screenshotted their phone and then put it into the thread.
Sure. Yeah. Here's the beauty of the question. Social media. It could be good or bad. We get this question a ton. Jimmy, I'm going to let you actually answer the question, which is, how do you respond to negative comments on social, whether it be, hey, why do I have to register? And we have clients that have been dealing with this for 3 years and they don't get those questions anymore. But yeah, one of the things that I've always tried to remember, just because you say you're newer to this, meaning newer to Curator, which really means newer to taking internet marketing like a professional.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, when you get some unsubscribes or when you send an email that says, are you still thinking about buying a home soon? And you get 30 people that say, yes, please keep in touch with me. But you get like 40 that say, no, take me off your goddamn list. That's a new thing. It's a little scary. And then on Facebook with it happening, it's happening in public. But one of the things to keep in mind as you try anything new, Curator or social media marketing, whatever it may be, there's a guy named Jason Fried. And I never forgot this because he said, the sooner you start trying to make money online, the sooner you will. And so the first time I had a 20,000 person Facebook page and I made them register to attend a webinar, I got pushback. Or if I made them pay, for God's sake, for a recording, there was pushback and it felt terrible, public conversation. So Jimmy, when you kind of become more of a real marketer, not a passive marketer, and you get some success, like she mentioned, I'm sure 42 comments is a lot more than your post pre-Curator, that sort of just flew out there and maybe nobody ever commented. What should Rebecca do when she gets a negative comment about this?
Yeah, well, it's going to be a degree of negativeness, Rebecca, in the sense that the person's a complete lunatic. Like they say, get off my Facebook, as if they own Facebook. Like, just delete the weirdo, right? Ban the person. The key is you don't actually have to delete the thread. You can delete and hide the comment. And what that does is it prevents other people who are not connected to that weirdo from seeing their comment. But other people will still see the thread. So if it's on that outer edge of insanity, then by all means, get rid of it. But what you did in that private message, which is someone asked the question, how should I, hey, why do I have to register? You can respond publicly. And if they don't like that, then again, you have the option to delete them or just leave it up there. But the reality is, like Chris is suggesting, when you're reaching thousands of people with any given ad, you're going to always have a little bit of pushback. But as time goes on, and you look at Joe and Taylor's Facebook page is a good example of that, you see how they respond to it. Hey, why do I have to register? Oh, you don't have to. Just send me your information here, and I'll send you the link, right? Yeah. And they'll drop their email right below.
That is actually, if you were to copy and paste something, Rebecca, oh, no problem. You don't have to register. Just email me, and I'll give you the link. That's all you have to do. And then put your email. My email's this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Shoot me an email and I'll send you the link. No problem. And eventually you'll find like people get it. Eventually over time, people kind of get it. I think one of the other things that I would have is a little swagger. Say, you don't have to register to look at this listing on Zillow or all the other sites, but this is our listing and we know the most about it. So we do require information to view it.
No, I love that. All right, cool. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for hopping on.
Thanks for the business too, Rebecca.
Jimmy,
Thanks.
Dave has a question here. We are in a seller's. Oh, he's calling in and he has a question. I don't know, Dave. I'm gonna go with the one you already typed in. We're in a seller's market. I need listings. I have buyers and no homes. So they're in a seller's market, low inventory.
Sure.
He needs listings. He has plenty of buyers and no houses. What should he do?
Let me tell you how I coach our clients, Dave. First thing is I tell them to always go after the low-hanging fruit. And what I mean by that is I find that when clients come to me and they ask me that question, they oftentimes haven't followed up with their sphere in the last 6 months or 12 months. So first thing is sending out a targeted message to your database, basically stating the fact that low inventory, there's lots of examples of that online, but like a low inventory email basically, right?
Jimmy, I got one today. Could I just mention that because I got one today?
Sure.
And it was I think it was a Keller Williams agent, trying to work in the neighborhood here. And he basically said, and we're going to get Gene on here. I'm going to pull him in. But basically what it said in the letter was, this is not an advertisement. I have buyers who are ready to buy a house in your neighborhood. They're super frustrated. And if you're ready to get out of here, they're ready to get in. And I think when that comes from a place of realness, it will create. Look at this. This guy knows what he's doing.
Is this a plug here for Chris?
The conversion code lined up there? Hold on. I'm clicking to give props on Gene there. So, if you think about that, Jimmy, I think that the answer to, forget real estate for a second. What do you do when you're in sales and you have a market that's moved and it's created a challenge, whether that be high inventory, buyer's market, low inventory? The number one thing you can do is roll up your sleeves, work a little harder, get a little bit more creative. I would say, where do most of your listings come from historically? And if they come from clients and if they come from Sphere, then I would spend a couple months on some Sphere and some past client marketing. I would make sure that every person that I've sold a home to in the last 5 to 7 years, I at least had one conversation with, because I owed it to myself to go after the source of where the most listings come from. So if you were to say, hey, Chris, we need some leads at Curator that will close quickly. You and I, Jimmy, know that we can spend a ton of money on Facebook ads, close those people in 30 days. We know that some of the other lead sources take a little longer, slower burn. So hopefully that answers the question. Gene, what you got, my man? Welcome to the Q&A. Cheers, Gene. There it is. We got you now. Uh-oh. Jimmy, can you hear him?
No.
We don't have the audio on you, Gene. Try again.
You're pulling a Jimmy here, Gene.
You are, yeah. I think Gene's drinking a Steve Weiser over there. Uh-oh.
Hey, Chris, let me just dovetail off that, because one more thing I want to mention in regards to seller leads. Step one, like Chris is saying, stick to the basics, understand what has gotten you listings before the past, double down on that. Step two is to realize that you probably have a database of buyer leads. And I'm so shocked at the amount of agents I speak with that don't ask the very basic question: do you need to sell before you buy? You'll find 25, 35, 40% of your buyer leads, which are basically never asked that question, probably own a house and have to sell.
Yeah.
And third, on the topic of one last point, Chris, on the topic of creating content to attract sellers, this is where I believe our industry does a very bad job at actually marketing and can really make some headway. Is we are all focused on IDX and pay-per-click ad campaigns. That's great. But if you start creating seller-focused content using tools like BuzzSumo, which you can go to buzzsumo.com right now, type in the word sellers, and you'll find great posts from our girl, Tara Nicole Nelson from Trulia, about like awesome blog posts that have 90,000 shares. If you start creating seller-focused content and follow the same advertising strategies you hear us talk about, advertise on Facebook, target a specific audience, follow up with people in comments and likes and messages, you'll realize that you can attack this from all angles: basics, buyer leads, and seller-focused content.
Jimmy, I know a lot of the viewers have the book, and a bunch of people that are asking questions tonight are going to get one. But for those of you that have the book, I do want to pull up one thing. It's in chapter 6, actually, excuse me, chapter 7. I talk about a 9-word email, and the way that you would do the 9-word email in this kind of low inventory world is you take every buyer lead you have that is basically the kind of thousands of buyer leads you could blast all at once, and you have the subject line, "I'm really sorry," or "I'm sorry," right? And when they open it up, it's this kind of 9-word style that says, "I'm sorry, when I got your information from lead source name, right? Zillow, Facebook, I forgot to ask if you needed to sell a home before you buy your next one." Now, that's a little bit more than 9 words. I get that. But it's like, think of it as the 1-sentence email. You apologize that you forgot to ask them if they needed to sell a home before they bought their next one. And then you basically could kind of finish that with because there's no houses for sale, so this is a good time. Anyway, good stuff. Love it.
How would you deliver that, Chris? You're delivering that through what? Through
That's
email,
but you're also mass email to all my buyer leads at once. "I'm sorry. because a lot of people, they don't have it in their drip campaign to ask that. They never talk to these leads anyway and never qualified them to ask that. And what it'll do is it'll just basically create what you want, which is a hand raiser, which is really good. Peter Kima.
Peter.
How are you, sir?
What's going on, fellas?
Cheers, man. Hey, long-time viewer, first-time caller. What's your question, my friend?
I like it. Nicely played, Chris. Hey, so we're having a lot of success with running the the ads or guess the price. Mm-hmm. That's huge for us. But everybody else is picking up on it in our market now. So we'll have 16,000 views. We'll put a little boost behind it and get 300-400 guesses. But we're starting to see that dwindle as more and more people are doing it. Yeah. Fresh ideas, thoughts about that, going live. We did one time where we tell us what your favorite picture is of which room's your favorite and why. But what else can we do?
Yeah, well, I would say that the one thing I'd be thinking about, Peter, is all the clever tricks and tactics that we've been coaching you guys on at Curator around buyers. I want you to think about sort of applying those same strategies to sellers, right? So as opposed to it being guess what it's going to be listed for, it's guessing what it's sold for. There's a really cool strategy that you can use, and I'll get back to kind of differentiation. I feel terrible. I mean, we work with Lisa Archer. You know her pretty well, Peter. And, I was on a call with Lisa several years ago. It was Lisa, myself, and Seth Price from Playster. And we were, trying to come up with a new brand for her. And it ended up being Live, Love, Charlotte, which later, as she became kind of an expansion agent, it became Live, Love, Homes. Mm-hmm. And I remember even before that, you had people like Dale Chumley. I don't know if you remember, like 365 things to do in your city name. And within, a couple of conferences, people like me talking about how clever that idea was. There's live, love this, live, love that, 365 here, right? So one thing to realize is that there will always be mimicry when you're leading the pack. I mean, when you're the innovator, when you're doing the cool idea that works, you have to understand it will get copied. Two thought processes there, Peter. How can you do a variation of it so that you don't lose the results? I remember when we would talk to companies about Dotloop, we would say, listen, just because your competition is starting to use iPads too, doesn't mean that you should go get a freaking Amazon Fire to run your business. It doesn't mean you should get an Android tablet. Sometimes you don't want to be different just to be different. If what you're doing is working for your business, and if it's generating results and you're doing it consistently, the secret sauce half the time is that half of these people won't do it over time. You're seeing them do it once or twice and they have a little fun with it, but eventually it doesn't lead to anything and they give up. So there have been a lot of people that have copied us, Peter, over the years. Everything from the shows to the technology to the strategies. And Jimmy wrote a great piece about it. If you're being copied, you want to enjoy the fact that they're riding in your wake because you're controlling the boat. But what I would say is take all of these ideas about open house and listing and guess the price, and what Peter's referring to is sort of, hey, this listing's going to be in the market soon or just hit the market. If you guess the price, we'll give you a gift card, or if you guess the price, you'll be entered to win whatever. And it creates a ton of comments, Peter. But I will go back to something I told an earlier viewer. I love those comments, and I'm sure some of those people become clients, but my number one goal is link clicks. So if I wanted to kind of do ask the price better, I would basically say, hey, here's what's going on. Click here to see the price and get them to your site that's better than everybody else in your market. Get it? You see what I'm saying? So, I think part of it is if it's working, don't just give up on it. Don't go off and get a freaking tablet that sucks just because other people are getting tablets now and catching up. But yeah, you want to think outside of the box. I would say we've got some really exciting stuff coming around this idea that there's always kind of been a listing details page to do stuff like that with that. but there's really never been kind of a seller details page, if you will. So we're excited about kind of those kind of tried and true things that work. You know, Zillow has been doing something called Taste Test Tuesday every Tuesday for probably 6 years. And they do one picture, A and B, and they say both of these homes are listed for this amount. Which one would you buy, A or B? And Peter, it blows up. And so can you imagine if Spencer, you know, at Zillow said, man, this guy Peter, he's doing my A/B test over there in, you know, Raleigh area, right? We gotta quit doing that A/B test that works so good because Peter's doing it now too. So that really is my biggest point of advice here, man, is if it's working for you and for your business, you don't drop Zillow because somebody else got it. You don't drop Curator because the other guy in the office is the other client in the area too. When something's working, keep doing it. That's really my answer. I hope that helps. Jimmy, you've been sorry about that, Peter. You started talking right when I hit kick. We'll bring you back on. Jimmy, I see audio only for you. Are you there? Can you talk?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So we can hear you. We just don't see you.
Yes, and I heard your explanation to Peter. There's only one thing I want to add, Chris, which is this is a tactic we use at Curator during our marketing meetings, which we host every week. We identify the things that work. We call it works every time. We sure that we are continuing to do those wet things, right? Those things that work every time. And then we will occasionally, once a week, once every couple of weeks, add something new to the strategy. So what I loved about your answer, Chris, is that the fact is in your market, you will see companies spring up and try to copy what you're doing. The best strategy to combat that is to outlast them by not stopping. As long as it's continuing to work, outlast them by your persistence. And again, think about new creative ideas, like you're saying, the inverse of guess his prices, guess what it's sold for.
I mean, think of it this way. Think of it this way, Peter. Imagine if you said, man, these guys around town are starting to call all their leads back fast. Screw that. We're not going to do that anymore. You know, so just kind of keep it in perspective. Jimmy, I'll throw this one to you. Hopefully the audio will hang in. John Mangus, just an absolute longtime viewer. Thank you, John. Supported People Work, supported the conversion code. Just an awesome guy to be around, actually. So we work with a guy named Josh Hasty. He did my speaker reels. He videotaped our conference. Just a sharp guy. Josh Hasty, filmmaker who happens to work in real estate. He's worked with a lot of Curator customers. So John's question is, you know, how can I best coach my agents to effectively use a video? So Jimmy, this isn't about how can I get my agents to do video. The idea here would be, you know, we're investing in this guy coming out, or if you're just listening, he is a business owner, you know, we just got this great video done. You know, we just gave Josh $4,000, $5,000. So I think what I'd like you to kind of help John understand is you've got a great video on your hands. Now what? What do you do as a marketer with a great video? Because a lot of people are starting to actually have videos worth marketing.
Yeah, so John, I'm going to answer this question in two ways. The first is the big obvious stuff you hear Chris and I talk about on every water cooler, which is first and foremost, you want to advertise that on Facebook. You want to blast it out to your database. You want to explore things like YouTube ads. You want to explore things like using retargeting. So when people visit your site, you're retargeting with a video ad. Those are the big obvious things that you can begin to use right away the moment you get the video. Because the basic idea with any video, when it's the Josh Hasty video especially, is you want to get as many people in your area seeing that video. It's going to differentiate you. The second part of this, which is what I see a lot of people miss, Chris, and this is a tactic that you've taught me over the years, which is you use it in hand-to-hand combat, which is you have this amazing video. You just spoke to a lead. Guess what I'm doing? Hey, John, just want to let you know we actually had a video produced just to tell the story of our team. I'd love for you to check it out. Here's the link. Thanks for the conversation today. Thanks for, you know, talk to me about buying a new home. And you can use it in this hand-to-hand combat style, one-to-one with leads and prospects as a way to get them to understand who you are, trust like you, to actually want to do business with you. So I think it's two parts, Chris. Mass advertising, mass marketing to people in your local area, but then don't let it die in the vine there. Take it into the trenches and use it in the one-to-one.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think the more important thing is that you have a post-publish strategy, whether it's a video, a blog post, a great photo of a listing, right? One thing you didn't mention there, Instagram just released videos up to a minute. So definitely take, if the video is longer than a minute, you know, how can you get that 30-second to a minute version that's Instagram friendly? You know, Instagram video views as an ad unit, YouTube video views as an ad unit can be 1 cent. Facebook video views, you know, native Facebook video post. But again, define success. The success of that video is that everybody in your market sees it, loves it, and thinks better about you because of it. And if that's your goal with that video, business will come. But if you try to figure out, how can I put this thing behind a landing page? It usually doesn't end quite as well. So great advice there, Jimmy. Here's a question. Yeah, go ahead. You got it?
Yeah, well, the actual show more is not working for me here, so I can only see the top part of Robert's question. You got pinned there.
Yeah, basically he's saying, you know, people are doing landing pages for a geographic area. I think what he's saying is, can you basically farm an area? You know, when you mailed a just listed, when you mailed a just sold, if you mailed a market, you know, tchotchke through the mail, you know, there was no force to register. So he's basically saying, can you put a pin in a neighborhood and just do ads that aren't for registrations?
Yeah, absolutely, Robert. We cover this in depth in our Facebook advertising water cooler. Facebook's introduced new targeting options that allow you to go beyond just a zip code. You can drill down, like Chris is suggesting, by dropping a pin in the map and doing a radius around the ad, around the area. That's one really effective way to actually do this. We actually just had a post on the website on 5 Facebook targeting options that you should absolutely explore. It actually goes in depth with different types of audiences you can use. But certainly a pin on a map, doing a radius is a great way for you to farm your local area. And you can drive people to a website without registration, but understand that that content has got to sell. You can't drive them to a generic homepage of your website or drive them to the blog and just expect them to basically convert themselves. If you're not going to do a registration up front, you better have a strong call to action. You better have a great piece of content that will sell on the back end.
Yeah, and the bottom line is that it's cheaper, you know, when you're not trying to get people to register. And if you actually bid for impressions, like if you compare that to what you've done in the past, like the cost for an impression of a postcard compared to the cost for an impression of a Facebook ad, I'm going to win that impression cost all day long as a Facebook advertising company. So we're going to get to Chris W. in 1 second. Jimmy, I'm going to take the Chris N question, which is, what is the best practice for an agent to connect with their sphere on Facebook on a daily basis if they're doing kind of time blocking? And I addressed that really specifically in the conversion code, something I call the 3-3 technique, which is very simple to do. You're basically going to look at your chat, first of all, on the side, and just make sure people are on. And I've got a message in the book that you can literally send word for word, but it's something like, hey, I'm working on a project for work. Would you mind if I picked your brain for a second? It's that simple. You know, it's just a simple little message. And if you'll message that every day to 3 people from your sphere, you will get 2 or 3 replies and say, awesome, I'm going to give you a quick call, and get on the phone. And then people say, Chris, what do I say? What do I say? And you don't have to overthink it. Just say something along the lines of like, hey, I'm going through every friend I have on Facebook and asking them if they're thinking about selling their home in the next 12 months. I'm going to be writing a big article about it, but, you know, are you guys considering that? I'm just curious. Oh, you are? Boom. Oh, you're not? Done. It's not that complex, but it's about that pull. It's about that purposeful pull. So the 3-3 technique. The other one is, if you don't want to just say, hey, you want to talk about work in a private message, going to people's walls that are good referral sources that you want to work with, that you've worked with before. When you find an article that you think a person in your network would like, it's okay to go to just their wall and put it on their wall. In fact, you basically get 100% conversion into a conversation. A lot of times I see way too many people, Jimmy, this pisses me off to this day. There's way too many fucking tags. If you tag me with 22 other motherfuckers. I don't care. Each tag you add means that you give a little bit less of a shit. And so, this idea that like, oh, here's this article about traveling that all my traveling friends will like, and you tag your 30 traveling friends. To me, that is not as impactful as going to one person's wall and saying, hey, remember when we went to Hawaii together? This would have came in handy. So I think that as opposed to this megaphone that you are speaking to your sphere through right now on Facebook, speak to them with a microphone one-to-one. I hope that's good advice. Thanks for the question, Chris. Chris W., what is your question, my man?
Hey, guys. So we have 2 and possibly a third new agent. They're about my age, so early 20s, and they're on a budget. And they want to know, as far as that, lean startup style 80-20 rule, what are the 3 or 4 things that they should actually be putting their money towards in a seemingly infinite digital landscape?
Yeah, it's an awesome question, Chris. I think the challenge with any new business, any new entrepreneur, anyone on the team, they tend to think way too short term. They tend to look at the people in the industry who've been doing business, who are the top producers, who've been here for 30 years, 40 years, and they say, I'm going to copy that person. And what they don't realize is that the vast majority of those individuals are living off their reputation. They did the hard work in the first couple of years. They built up their network, and that network has become a referral source for them, and that can't be recreated overnight. So the first thing is, number one, I'm a huge fan of focusing on day-to-day short tactical things that you can actually improve upon, like talking to more people. Maybe it's things as basic as, like Chris is suggesting here, 333 within your network on Facebook. You can even go old school, calling expires, calling FSBOs, if you are in a position where you have to make money right now. At the same time, you have to complement any day with long-term strategies such as creating unique content that provides value that you can advertise and blast out to your ever-growing network. It's how Chris and I, if you think about our histories as marketers and as salespeople and as entrepreneurs, it's how we started. When Chris started Tech Savvy Agent, he had 0 people reading his blog. And it took him, a short amount of time to get to where he's at in, 100,000 page views. But it took obviously a certain percentage of the day dedicated to that piece. So I think you have to think about it in two respects, Chris. And I'll pass it over to Chris Smith to kind of add to this. Number one, short term, what do you got to do to make money right now? But don't let that stop you from doing the things that will make you money 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now.
Awesome.
I love it. I would say that when you're newer, you have more time on your hands. So you want to kind of spend that time. I'm just giving kind of a big, simple example, but combination of content creation and door knocking. You know what I'm saying? And like, if you're going to do content creation, that's something that's really a time investment. If you're going to door knock, you might want to spend that money on some better clothes, my man. Something like that. Not kidding. Seriously. I'm not fucking kidding. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, Jimmy, real quick. Oh, sorry. We got a break. People are loving it, Jimmy. The audience is loving this. Do you guys let us know in the chat? Because there's a ton of questions. And we did say 45. We definitely want to watch the Warriors game tonight. I know that about you and myself. Kobe's last game too. I'm happy to roll through a bunch more. Why were you going to stop me there, Jimmy? Sorry.
I wasn't going to stop you. Let's keep it rolling. We're getting a ton of questions that are coming in here. So I'll set this one up for you here. Ed O'Malley. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that properly, Ed. What style of Facebook ad image works best? Photo background, people, video, text, etc. So he's basically asking, how are you using Facebook or images in Facebook ads in an effective way?
Sure. Great question. First of all, photos matter a ton. I say in the book, image is everything. And you should actually, when you do a Facebook ad, actually pretend there's no words. So like, hopefully if you just saw a funnel with social media icons at the top and money coming out the bottom, like you wouldn't really need to see the name of the book and the subtitle. So the idea is that you want to, through your ad, completely convey the entire point of the ad as if there was no words involved. So sure. Images are critical. But Jimmy, I'm going to throw a curveball here because this is advice that I've never even given to our clients, but I've definitely eaten my own dog food and done this a lot for myself. And this is definitely something that holds true when you look at some of the data out there around what gets the most clicks in an image. Now, thankfully, a lot of people watching this sell real estate. And really beautiful homes or pools or kitchens, they do. So that's huge. But one of the things that actually does, Jimmy, is people and their faces being in pictures in ads is very, very impactful, because Facebook's already an ecosystem of scrolling through your news feed and kind of looking at pictures of people. And so when it gets a little too stock photo-y, it certainly is not going to be that effective. But this idea of using real photos of real clients, real employees, of yourself, in boosted posts, I do it all the time, because I do think people want to connect with people. Now, Mark Corbett that called in earlier, right? If he's got his profile picture looking all clean and shaven, and then he has the picture with the big beard, the boost may not do as good. But this is a pro tip, Jimmy, that like even with a home value ad, even with a listing ad or whatever it may be, people's eyes are drawn to other people's faces. So keep that in mind, you guys. That's my answer for Ed. He appreciated the answer.
Cool. I think the one thing that our friend Matthew Shadbolt articulated perfectly is that your ads have to have stopping power. So like Chris is suggesting, you might try pool shots or shots of the front of the house. You may use people. There's basic tactics that we use where you can use like a red border or a yellow border or a green border, using tools like canva.com to sort of just separate and draw someone's eye there. But what happens is, and you have to be very careful of this, you don't want the ad to look like an ad. The moment the ad looks like an ad, in the back of people's minds, right, they are immediately just essentially blocking that. They're phasing it out. It's actually a study done on banner blindness from the 90s. Like that still exists today with social media. So great tip, Chris. Hopefully people got value out of it.
Yeah. And Jimmy, I'll ask this one to you, and we're going to start to wrap it up here. But this is a great question. And then we're going to give away a couple more books, autographed copies of the book. We're going to try to get Gene back on. And Gene, don't just come on and pitch your event. If you do, it'll be a quick call. Me and Gene are working together, Jimmy, on a big event. But I'm going to get Bonnie's question, and then we'll go to Gene.
Sure.
What is the most efficient means of becoming well-versed in the latest and greatest social media? The idea there, and we get this a lot, which is sort of, how do you guys know all this stuff? Where do you learn about all this stuff? How, where are you going, Jimmy, and where am I going to learn about what we learn about that we bring to the stage when we speak, or that we bring to our client work, or that we bring to the show? So I'd love you to answer that. I'll answer that, and then we'll go to Gene to wrap it up.
Sure. Well, quite simply, Product Hunt is great for products and people launching different services on demand. Hacker News is a little bit more technical, but it's understanding sort of trends that are happening within technology that are relevant to social media platforms. Inbound.org. Inbound.org is an organization of marketers worldwide, started by Dharmesh. The founder of HubSpot is a great resource. And what you'll find is anywhere there is a forum, even things like Quora, Chris, are good examples of that. Anywhere there's a forum of entrepreneurs, marketers, salespeople that are contributing, you usually will find the best information. The one thing I want to add to that, and one of the things that Chris and I fell in love with this year, is that there is a new trend in sort of the podcasting and video series where you have things like the Stanford series that we love, Chris, which is, and the name is escaping me right now, Chris, with our buddy from
Blitz Scaling.
Thank you. So the Blitz Scaling YouTube channel from the founder, Reid Hoffman of LinkedIn, is a great place to learn from some of the smartest, most talented entrepreneurs in the world. So I would look at this in two respects, Bonnie. Look at the forums like Inbound.org, Product Hunt, Hacker News, and look at some of the most popular podcasts and video series like Blitz Scaling, Startup Journey, which we love. You can do a little bit of research on iTunes. We also
another great one is Conversion Cast, which is a podcast that really is
bam, done.
Pro tips, specific stuff. It actually, I wanted to go back to what Peter mentioned earlier. A lot of people tonight, Jimmy asked about Facebook stuff, right? Because that's the part of the funnel that is fun to fill up. You can get those metrics, but I can't sort of beg you guys and understand enough that the fortune is in the follow-up. The fortune is in turning leads into appointments and then closing them over the phone. And I was actually disappointed that we weren't getting questions about email marketing for lead conversion. How do I convert the people that I'm getting through Facebook. You know, people still seem to be kind of wanting to master a little bit higher in the funnel, which is great. But I want to give a pro tip, because there's a thing you can do in an email message that we did, Jimmy, and it got us a 4 times improvement on our click-through rate, which was sort of like this idea of guess something. Do you think the answer to this question is A, B, C, or D? And you basically sent an email. I did one where I said, you know, what do you think the number one way to convert a new lead is? Facebook message, text message, email message, LinkedIn message. And in each of the answers, there's a hyperlink back to basically something on your site that reveals the answer. Could be an article about the topic, which is what we did. But all the links are the same. But by putting that quizzification into the message through email, we got 4x the clicks that we normally do. So for those of you that want to be ahead of the curve, you want to know more, you want to be better, you want to master this stuff, the mastery comes in the conversion stuff and the retargeting stuff and the hooks that keep people coming back for 6 to 18 months because they're not ready yet. But like, how do you do that without pissing them off? The fortune is in the follow-up. Gene, what's your question, my man? Welcome back. Cheers.
Thanks, man. Can you hear me then?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Still now?
Yep.
Oh, there we go. I had to switch computers. So listen, what's up, fellas? How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for asking.
Sure. So no, I'm excited to meet you guys in May. The code is, as you know, I got about a bunch of copies in my dining room, and I'm probably halfway through the book, and it's excellent stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. So here's the question I have. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about this. The inception of Facebook Live over the last week into the business pages. And I'm just wondering what you think or how it's going to change the real estate market from an open house perspective or just marketing on the business page. So I'll leave it at that.
Sure. Great question. And they're really doing a lot with Facebook Live, Jimmy. I'm going to try this next week. I'm going to go live in the tech support group because you can actually now go live in a group. And what Gene's saying is you can go live from a page. I believe you can go live from a profile. You know, I think at this point, you know, Facebook, and I think they talked about what? Bots, virtual reality, live video, and 360-degree video. That was what they said is the future of Facebook for the next 10 years. So it's an interesting question. My first piece of advice is this, Gene. Just because people can do things most certainly doesn't mean that they should. And just because you can write a blog doesn't mean you should if you're a terrible writer. Just because you can do a podcast and it is pretty easy through SoundCloud doesn't mean that you should start one. If you are not engaging and compelling on video, on camera, to the point where it helps your brand, it doesn't hurt it, you should never hit that button. I'm not kidding. I would rather hire someone, you know, you can only be sort of like, you know, stumbly and shaky and charming for so long. We're working with people that want to grow real businesses and be respected professionals in their market. And so just because you can use Blab and you can go on Facebook Live and you can do Periscope, before you decide, you know, that you can, the question really is, should you? Now, Lee Brown, a past guest, has some great feedback on this, Gene, that basically you're going to look and sound the way you look and sound when you meet with people, no matter what. So if you don't like the way you look and sound on Facebook Live, you probably don't like the way you look and sound at a listing appointment or in a car with a buyer.
Right.
So that's actually an insecurity that you need to overcome. That's a personal flaw and weakness. That has nothing to do with Facebook Live video, way deeper than that. But what I love about Periscope, Facebook Live, and even Blab is it creates a real-time, Jimmy talked about it kind of like it's the equivalent of a food truck when food trucks first started getting popular in New York City. You almost don't know when it's going to happen. And it can kind of happen at any time. And all of a sudden there's a truck and there's a huge line. And I love that. Like I was watching a Facebook Live this weekend with my wife and kids, and it was BuzzFeed doing it. And they were putting rubber bands around a watermelon, okay? And they were counting them. If anybody in the chat saw this, please tell me that I'm not crazy. It was, Jimmy, we couldn't take our eyes off of it. It was literally a group of people at the BuzzFeed office, but it was live. And it was so powerful. We're waiting for this thing to explode. Like, I wouldn't have watched the replay that way. When it's live, you can't fast forward, Gene, right? When it's live, you don't know what's coming next. You don't know what's around the corner of the room. So I think that if you've already been doing video and you like video, the Michael Thorns of the world, the Judy Weiningers of the world, I think that they're going to transition into Facebook Live, doing things like open houses without a lot of issues. But if you have never even gotten in front of the camera and done a video and kind of tried to tackle that kind of courage issue, I don't know that the fact Facebook rolled it out means absolutely anything to you or your business. So I'm excited that live video is becoming important, but I wouldn't put it in a bucket of game changer. I really wouldn't.
Okay.
Cool. And by the way, what's the date of our event? What's the date of our event, Gene? Give it a plug.
May 23rd at the Valley Forge Casino.
And that's in King of Prussia, PA?
It's next door neighbor.
Close enough. And what is the website? You guys came up with, Jimmy, I did not consult on the branding. Give us the name, Gene, of the website.
Chris, it'll make more sense to you when you see the whole thing.
No, I know
it's Reviolution.com.
Okay, Reviolution, which is, and there it is. Thank you. Gene put it in the chat there. I'm going to star it. Thank you, sir. Please, you guys,
thank you.
Check that one out. If you're in the PA area, it's going to be a kick-ass event. Thanks, Gene. I'll see you real soon, dude.
Thanks, Gene.
Cheers, boys.
So, Jimmy,
thanks.
what do you think of the Q&A, man? People are there's
you don't even need my feedback, Chris, because we got feedback coming in throughout the entire session today. People love it. They love being able to ask questions. It actually goes to the core of what the water cooler is built on, which is we try to strip away the glitz and glam of a keynote at a conference and get into the trenches with you guys, because we know that, and this is something that we've experienced being entrepreneurs now together for about 4 years, is that there are moments when the light bulb goes off. There are moments when things just click. And I think, Chris, back to the days of, I remember this when we watched David Yak's video of the CEO of Yammer, and he was on an interview, and he had this great quote. He said, when you've got something special, it's time to throw gasoline on the fire. And in some respects, that gave us sort of permission to step on the gas and start actually marketing ourselves, even though we were at the very early stages and still figuring it out. And I think when you have an opportunity to kind of pull back the layers here and get into the trenches, you realize that you might be much closer for all this stuff to start to click. You might be much closer to actually connecting the dots than you think. So, Q&A format, I think, helps our audience, helps our community tremendously. So we've got some awesome questions. My paranoia of getting no questions was quickly alleviated the moment they start flowing in. So thank you guys so much. It was awesome to see them coming in.
Yeah, if you guys do me a favor, click the share button right now. Share the link on Facebook and Twitter. Use the water cooler hashtag. Please let people know that you enjoyed this. Let us know in the chat that you enjoyed it. And, again, if you did ask a question we answered on the air, you're going to get an autographed copy of the conversion code mailed to you. Just email me, chris@curator.com. I wanted to give a quick pitch here, Jimmy, for our services and what we do. We're not pro bono by any means. I mean, the show is free, but we're going to do a quick plug. So if you're watching right now and you're basically thinking like, man, all that stuff sounds so awesome, but I would just rather pay a company to get help versus go and try to do it by myself or kind of do it alone. You can go to, I want everyone that's interested in learning more about what we can do for you to actually go to curator.com, go to the homepage, click on check availability, and then you can watch an 8-minute demo video. It goes through our website design, our landing pages, our IDX, our blog, our Facebook ads, CRM, email marketing, SMS. I think the most important thing we do is if you enjoy what I would call, and this is not to demean the show, Jimmy, the show's a huge hit, but the level of coaching that we're able to provide our clients compared to the level of coaching we can provide to our community is just different. Because in our community, which is the water cooler and the blog and the groups, everybody has a different CRM. everybody might not even have their credit card signed up on Facebook yet. Everybody has a different landing page tool. Everybody has a different CRM. So we can only coach at a certain depth, which people still seem to love. But a curator, you ain't seen nothing yet. If you are looking for the best marketing and sales coaching, we will get you fired up with somewhere to go. So go to curator.com, click on check availability, help, not hype. That's what we offer if you pay us. And then as far as the book is on Amazon. Quick plug for the book, Jimmy. But I mentioned the Pennsylvania event. There's actually a full book tour. Our conference, if you like the shirt tonight, I'm excellent. We do a live conference in Orlando, Florida, October 12th through the 14th. Go ahead and mark your calendar. You can't buy tickets yet. You can only buy a ticket right now if you're a client. We are going to open the tickets up. There's going to be maybe 100 tickets, Jimmy, total, and they're expensive. We do charge a lot for this in-person 3-day event. But if you go to curator.com, click on the menu, and then click on conference, you can get notified the second that the tickets come out to our live event in Orlando. It's going to be a ton of fun. It really is a fun event that we do there. Jimmy, do you want to speak to excellence or the client work at all?
Yeah, well, you summed it up perfectly, Chris, in one of your promo videos. You know, this isn't a conference that basically tells you that Facebook is important. We're way past that. What our clients want and what the attendees of the conference want is they want to understand how to actually grow their business through Facebook marketing, through Facebook ads, through email marketing, through content creation, and through real sales tactics. So like our slogan says, help, not hype. That's the theme of the conference.
Awesome. So yeah, go to curator.com. You can always look up Jimmy and I. Take a look at the book. It's sold out on Amazon, but it's in Barnes & Noble near you. USA Today bestseller. Very proud of that. The people that are reading the book and executing, Jimmy, I mean, it's unbelievable. I'm getting several messages a week where it's like, dude, I did what you said on page 92 and I got 100 replies out of 700 leads I thought were dead. I mean, it's really been fun. And like you said, our goal with the show, with the book, if you hire us to speak, if you hire us a curator, is to provide help, not hype. There's plenty of hype in our industry and really in the marketing sales world in general. So if you loved this episode, let us know on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on iTunes. You can also subscribe on Blab. Thank you guys. Have a great night. Thanks for your time.